Good evening and welcome to the EDA meeting. It is Monday, October 14th at 7 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. Looking for a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Warden, second by Burek. Any further discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, 6-0. All right, first item of business is to approve our minutes from April 8th, 2024.
Well, why don't I make the motion to approve the minutes that are nearly 6 months old?
Thank you, Commissioner Fay.
I'll second.
Moved by Fay, second by Commissioner Burek for approval of the minutes. All in favor signify.
I had a question about it.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember DeLuca.
The minutes don't seem to be as clear as I'd like them to be necessarily. If you look at the first, the section where it says who's there, it says members present were, and it lists us. It doesn't say the mayor was there. Now, you could imply that the fact that she called the meeting to order, but it seems a little bit like somebody would look at that and say, well, apparently Julie wasn't present. She was. Just the way it's written.
Any other comments or questions regarding the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved 6-0. New business this evening is city planning updates, and I'm going to turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. We just did a high-level overview of a couple projects coming down that are pertinent to kind of new development in the city or redevelopment areas, just so you all were aware of some of the projects, kind of a small project update. So one of the projects that's coming in that has submitted an application and is in the process of being reviewed and likely going to the Planning Commission in November is 1741 Bud Street. That was a project that we had seen about a year and a half ago now as a concept level plan for approximately 100 units of multifamily housing in 2 buildings, so 2 different phases. So what came forward to the city is phase 1 plan, which would consist of 54 units, market rate housing. You can see, I just threw in a site plan, so you can see Bud Street on the right-hand side. This would have a proposal for 2 buildings. Phase 1 is the first building, the easterly building, 54 units. Phase 2 would be the westerly building, 42 units, 3 stories, underground parking, and then surface parking as well in the 2 phases. So this project we've talked about with the developer for some time. I was anticipating it actually maybe 6 months after they came forward with a concept plan. They were waiting on interest rates like everybody else has been talking about, and so now they're at a point where they want to move forward for a 25 construction is what they'd be looking at on that phase 1. So that would be our first market rate housing development in the city in 40 some years. The other project I think that's interesting to the city, this is a proposed minor subdivision to split 5370 Highway 12 into 2 properties. As you know, 5370 is a big warehouse commercial building on Highway 12. It was where the plastics proto mold, what was the? Rotomold, not Protomold. Protolabs and Roto. But Roto is, they still have some space in this building. They don't own that building. They bought a new site just a little bit further west on 12. But the owner of this project last year came through and split the building into 3 properties essentially, or 3 units. And so now they want to split off the 6.5 acres to the east. And so that would be done just through minor subdivision. What you don't see and what's being talked about is there is a purchase agreement on that 6.5 acres for them to acquire that site and potentially build an approximately 60,000 square foot facility. So we do not have an application on that, but they did say they have a purchase agreement now at this point on that property.
Is that public information now?
I don't know how public. It's at our meeting, and I'm telling you what I know because I was told there's a purchase agreement, which to me makes it
Well, this
a
is
purchase
public
agreement.
meeting,
So yeah. So, but they are anticipating, and I have met with them now on a couple of occasions, and they are anticipating that if this subdivision gets approved, that they would bring back an application for site plan and their whole building development.
My understanding is they'd like to fast track this. Is that possible, or is it unreasonable?
No, so this is going to go in November. They wanted it to go in October, but MnDOT has something to say about it. MnDOT did review it. MnDOT gets 60 days to review. They reviewed it in about 28 days or something, or 26 days, and so that was fast, but that didn't give us enough time then to respond to what they came out with prior to the planning commission, and I don't want to take an incomplete. I didn't want to take an item that wasn't fully cooked. So now we've gone back with comments. They've provided a response to those comments. I think we're ready to go for the November meeting. And I think that's what we can do to do that. So those are two of the projects. As you've seen, the Baker Park Villas are still going on. There's been a lot of work done on those, and they're getting ready to go vertical on those with the public improvements being installed. So that project is also out there. And then we do have, and there's nothing public or not public, but we do have a potential developer at the Gateway site that I'm hoping that would be a commercial use. I'm hoping that comes through in the next probably 90 days, which would be a really exciting project for the city if we get it. So that's a little bit about what we've got going on. So that's the next one. I can get to the downtown. Those are other ones. The only other thing I'd mention that Jacob and I feel calls on, and we have a lot of people kicking tires on the former Wank building property. That seems to have been picking up some steam again, and we get a lot of questions on that. And so I think we're gonna keep getting some ideas on that. The majority of the people who have looked at that want to do residential.
Really?
At the Wank property?
Yeah.
What's it zoned as?
Industrial. It's not mixed use, it's industrial, but you know, what people do is they drive down there, they go down the road, they look at the trees, they look at the wetland, and they go, wow, this is a really beautiful site. And that Wank building has it's quirky. It's, an office isn't hot right now, as you all know. It's kind of faded, right? And so I think a lot of people have looked at that site as a really pretty site on some wetlands, and they think about it more as a residential site versus a commercial site. So.
What, on the subdivision that you spoke of?
Yep.
What can you tell me, they've got the hatched area, the proposed shared access agreement. What can you tell me about?
So MnDOT denied a second access point,
Okay.
and the city was also supportive of that. We do not think that having 3 driveways within 150 feet of each other helps and/or is consistent with our safety desires on the Highway 12 corridor. And so MnDOT denied that. So now we're talking about having a shared ingress-egress that would serve the east tract and the west tract.
So then to get over to the east track, then a culvert would have to go in that new,
Correct.
okay.
And it's a pretty shallow basin, but what we're talking about is having this kind of shared entrance that comes in,
There
and then
and
it goes
across.
over.
Okay.
And then this side can do what they want, and we really want to have that go over prior to getting to this loading dock here and or conflicting with any possible kind of crossover truck traffic. And I think it's reasonable to say we could get a really nice entrance in there that would serve both properties well.
Okay, the manufacturing facility in the west track is over 100,000 square feet.
130.
And the expected or proposed addition to the east track, you said would be 60,000. Any potential for anything outside of that, or would that be in the new developer's hands to do that once the property gets transferred then?
Yeah, I mean, so the kind of real high level sketches I've seen, the east tract with a 60,000 square foot building and the associated parking is used.
It fills it up?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So you've seen a concept sketch?
I have.
Okay,
Nothing submitted.
I
I
understand.
don't have anything on my,
I just
but I have seen one.
I'm looking, there's 200,000 square feet of land there, greater than that, and I just,
It's 60,000's big, and then when you put parking with that, it's
Okay.
big, and it
Okay.
takes up a footprint, and then you got a little more stormwater that they need, and they've got to expand on that. So once you start to lay that out, it really does use that up pretty well.
Push them to attach a Chili's to the back end of it?
I honestly believe that our gateway with the maybe user would bring some other users because they bring business.
I know.
Yeah. But I honestly think this could be a really great use for this site. I think North Shore really wants to stay here, and this could be a good win-win for the city because access is hard. And ironically, I mean, you think about a 60,000 square foot, but the transportation needs or the trips generated actually isn't significant. It's not as significant as maybe a retail or some sort of office or commercial use.
But it will bring a lot of traffic down Highway 12.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's their times are pretty
Yeah.
specific. They're off peak generally, or maybe only overlap with one peak, not multiple peaks. And so there is something to that. But
And one other question on the Bud Apartments.
yeah,
The concept elevations, is that representative? I like the use of the dissimilar materials and the horizontal and vertical. I mean, is that representative of what they're thinking?
this is specific.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got
I like
detailed
it.
plans.
I like
Yeah,
it.
so this is what they're proposing. These aren't architectural like renderings
When's the
anymore.
last time you've been up to Monticello?
Yeah, the new building in
Oh my God,
Monticello.
they're gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that update. Any other questions regarding the general planning updates? All right, let's move on to downtown property discussion.
Okay, downtown redevelopment. So as EDA knows, we entered into a purchase agreement with Maple Development LLC on January 9th, 2024. That was to purchase and redevelop the 5 properties owned by the city along with 5210 Main Street. The redevelopment considered a 100-unit mixed-use building with 8,700 square feet of first-floor retail. The purchase agreement allowed the developer an initial due diligence period that ran through September 1, 24, and then they had the option of extending that through December 31st. They did not pursue an extension, and they have not contacted the city. We've reached out to them a number of times over the last 60 days to try to gauge if they were going to pursue the development. We have not gotten any correspondence, no response to correspondence. And so in accordance with the purchase agreement, we notified them actually last week, and we had to do it through certified mail, that they are in default of the agreement, and they get, by law, 30 days to cure that. So they get 30 days after the expiration, and then they get 30 days to cure by notice. And so we're now looking at a November 8th cancellation, essentially. So if they don't cure, and the cure is buying the property, and they have to have approvals and everything else, so it's not gonna happen. The city will retain the escrow money, it's not
Hasn't been all
significant.
spent yet?
Well, no, we have two escrow piles. So we had an escrow that just was for the purchase agreement. That was 10,000. And then we had a $5,000 escrow for fees. And no, I don't know that you're spent 100% on that yet. But either way, you're gonna get the 10,000 and you still have the escrow agreement for the 5,000. Not what we wanted. I mean, we obviously
No,
wanted
I'd rather have a
development.
development.
Right. Now, so with that, I just wanted to have one I want to bring to EDA, let you know where we are, because we're now gonna, be 20-some days away from having that property back. And I just wanted to have a conversation with EDA, or Jacob and I did, to talk about, are we still aligned with what that vision is for that property? I also want to let you know that we have met and have talked to other developers who are somewhat waiting to see if that purchase agreement fell through and are interested in pursuing a very similar project or the project on this property. You want to just flip to that little concept that we had. So this was the most recent concept that was attached to the purchase agreement that had a kind of multi-level building, 5 stories on Maple, 4 stories on the corner, 3 stories on Main, underground parking. It also had first floor parking on Maple. Remember that we were gonna kind of hide with building architecture to make it look like a Main Street front. And then we had an 8,700 square foot retail area. Out of all the sketches, out of all the concepts I think we've seen, I like this the most because I think it gives the most credibility to a potential retail use, because it kind of creates a pseudo Main Street / suburban retail front, because you've got this Highway 12 frontage on the corner there, which kind of gives, I think it gives high level visibility, but it also gives more of a traditional retail frontage versus just having like a Main Street front where you have no off-street parking in it and it's really urban. So I like this. I do think we have 2 to 3 developers who are waiting to see what happens with this property and have expressed interest in exploring kind of a similar redevelopment opportunity. We've shared all of our marketing materials. We've shared TIF analysis that we've done on this, and we have all that generated. So it's really, we've shared all our deal points, and I think that's what's there. But I just wanted to come back to EDA, say, here's where we are. What do you think? Get some thoughts, answer questions, or have a discussion.
Mark, why did we wait 4 to 5 weeks beyond September 1 before we did something?
So really, we waited 9 days, and it was more so just drafting the letter, making sure we had no other correspondence.
How do you get 9 days when their
due
diligence was September 1?
So the law gives them 30 days following the end of the purchase agreement to cure it, and then after the 30, we have to certify a expiration of the purchase agreement. So in reality, Mike, we're about 8 or 9 days difference.
No,
We
I'm
were
not
going to
worried
do it
about
right
8 or
on
9
October
days.
1, but
I was just wondering. That helps
we had a
me understand.
conversation on October 1, and then our attorneys are the one who, Scott drafted and then ultimately filed the letter and served them with that. So yeah, it's we're a couple days past what.
I'm not worried about a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
A month, I was worried.
No, and we wouldn't have let it. We'd been talking about this for
Yeah.
3 months, and then 2 months we said, what's our process? Scott gave Jacob and I a quick little summary of where kind of our break points were, our end points, and then we followed through on those. So
You've literally got crickets from them?
I have tried to reach out to them probably a dozen times through email and voicemail to my contacts, and I've gotten nothing. 0. Last correspondence I had was in August, and it was, I'm out of town, but when I get back, I'm gonna call you and then meet,
This is
and
a
that was it.
blessing in disguise.
What we've heard is they have, or they had actively tried to flip their purchase agreement. So what they were trying to do was acquire, they had a purchase agreement on the 5210, they had our purchase agreement, they put together the concept plans, and they were trying to flip that and make some money on it.
Oh.
By saying, hey, look, we've got a package, we've got a TIF, we've got a deal, here's what it looks like. You give us X and we'll flip that deal and assign, which they could have done, honestly, it's not unheard of, but that was, I think, really where they were looking, not we're doing it ourselves.
One question that excuse me, one question that I have, you know, they have the 5210 purchase agreement, which I'm sure is probably gonna also fall through.
Yeah.
The market rate, of that property is 82,432. That's
Market value.
Market value.
5210, yeah.
Sorry, 83,000. The assessments that we are putting on the property are gonna total $82,432.70. Would it be worth us approaching Ms. Voorhees and say, we will wipe this, you know, forgive this in
Lieu of?
In exchange of the property.
It basically giving us the property, because then we control the entire thing. There isn't a portion of that that is not controlled by the city, that the developer then has to work with another party.
I take it she hasn't been in to pay that?
Correct.
And all of that's been assessed already, or
It
does
gets
a piece of that
certified.
still have to
It
be?
gets certified in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, the 36,000 gets certified.
that'll be
And that's the
certified next year.
building tear down and restoration and everything and
Mowing, that wasn't-
legal fees and planning fees and stuff. What bucket of money did that $83,000 come out of, Jacob? I mean,
Well,
did it come out of
36 of it
EDA
was-
money or did it come out of
What fund?
No, it came out of the general fund.
general fund?
Yeah.
But we're able to levy that back,
Right. Or
assess her back.
us, right, and get reimbursed for it. Or offer her in exchange for the assess.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, but I wanted to feel that out. I just think there's a benefit to the city owning the entire property that we're trying to get a developer interested in.
And
Yeah,
I'll
on
be
the
honest
other
with you,
hand, she's gonna have, I don't like taking a piece of property off of the
No.
tax markets either.
I don't think she's gonna give you that, but I do think you should offer that. I mean, it's
What, do you have any idea what her purchase agreement was worth? I mean, is it
I heard
a
it
few
was,
$100,000?
I heard it was 300,000.
Okay.
But I never saw it, nobody furnished it, nobody tell me the exact, that's what I heard. I could be
I
totally
figured
off.
it'd been north of $250,000, so.
It was, yeah.
I think there'd be value in that, and it could give us some options and some flexibility, you know, as the EDA, and in working with developers, it would be another piece,
Well,
another barrier removed
Remember,
for
we
them.
bought the.
We already bought
Min-
the corner
We bought
back.
the MinDOT property, remember? We paid $20,000 for those little slivers of land.
Yeah, it would,
Yeah, make it one complete piece.
I think it'd be more viable for a project and for a developer.
Well, she's also about to be assessed for next year's, not only that amount, but her taxes, which she hasn't been historically paying either. So all of a sudden, what she owes us is probably gonna go up.
Are you saying she's in arrears on her taxes?
She could be. Has she been paying those? Her bank may make her pay those.
Let me see a quick, thank you.
I mean, the downside to assuming the property now is you're taking a
Just type in
taxable
52.
market
Oh.
piece off the rolls.
No, they have not been paid for this year.
Shows us 60,000 on that, or owes the county.
Tax, penalty, no, she has not paid. So. So how far is she in arrears? I couldn't read that, I'm sorry.
A lot.
There should be my previous years.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah.
Is there consensus that we want staff to extend that offer?
Well, but
Is that really?
the offer
EDA?
for only the valuation that she, not that she currently owes, but what she's going to be assessed shortly, because if she comes back and says, in addition to that, I want the tax liability that I'm in debt for to be paid off as well, now that liability, because there's what? There's school district involved in that, there's a
Yeah, I
county
don't wanna
involved
get-
in that, and there's city involved in that, and
For the
we're not a
past two
bank.
Taxes,
What's that?
for the past two taxes.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I forget, what was it, $50,000?
Mhm.
60.
Okay,
60
50, and so all of a sudden it's like, you know, we've got,
It'll be
she's gonna want $83,000 waived, or, excuse me, 83 and $125,000 waived, $135,000 waived. We're not a bank.
Right.
She owes 59,000 right now. That's
Plus,
what
plus
you're about to
she's gonna be
assess.
assessed 83, so 60 and 80,
36.
140.
36, 36
Oh,
more.
36?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a total of like.
So it'll be
82
60 plus 36, so it'll be 96 at the end of that. At the end of this year, or for next year, I guess, payable.
Okay, but
Plus
how
next
much
year's
of that
payable
$86,000 roughly is city responsibility, and how much of that is county and school? And regional rail authority and everything else?
Yeah, I can break it down. It's,
Enough you don't want to fool with it, John.
Yeah, cause, you know, if she's back taxes previous years, that's gotta be paid then too.
Then we'd be
Right.
liable.
And the penalties and everything
do
else,
that.
and all of a sudden, now
I
it's
didn't realize
costing
she
us
had back
money.
taxes.
How often does Hennepin County do tax forfeitures? Do you
I don't
Mark?
know.
it's gonna take more than 1 year of delinquent before they would do it.
Well, some counties are 3 and some counties are 5.
Out of the 59,000, 50,844 is special assessment.
So $9,000 for
And a
others?
third of that is yours. A third
Right,
of it
so
is
six
school and a
alone.
third,
That's
so it's
the
not,
end of the world.
it's not that much.
$6,000?
It's not that much, yeah.
Oh.
We do have money in the EDA.
Yeah.
To
Now
spur
I-
development.
Now it's intriguing.
But she's in the rears. I think she's in the rears 2 years. I can't see that. They won't show me that, but she's at 59,000. Our assessment's 50,000 and her annual taxes are only 5,000. And that was for this year. Last year they were less, right? Because it's based on 275.
2 years she hasn't paid.
So I think they've been, yeah, and there's a penalty on
Yeah.
there. So I think she hasn't paid for 2, including now
And then
this
she's
year.
gonna get another
And
4
there's
or
gonna be a bill
5,000
tomorrow.
next year.
Yeah. There's a bill tomorrow due. That's part of that, right? That's the 27 or whatever she's got. That
When
half.
she doesn't pay that, then she's gonna be penalty on that.
Yep.
Right. So you could be at 100,000.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think she takes the offer, but I think the offer's a good offer
But
because if you had
break it
control, you're
down
good.
now, I mean, she's gotta know what she owes and what she's in arrears for, and the penalties that's accruing, she's gotta have an exit plan.
I think the exit plan was purchase agreement
And
and
some-
developer, yeah.
She sells it for 300, pays the 100, and she nets 2.
Right. Or or she sells it for 250 now because the 3 didn't work and she nets 150, at least she's out. Because here's the other issue though, that we don't see, is I think there's debt on that building.
Oh,
Because I think we saw that in a pro forma at one point, that there was a debt, or actually, I think it was when we did the, when we levied or made it an unsafe building at one point, I think we knew there was something, I think it's 100 and some
Mortgage
thousand.
balance?
ooh,
She has a mortgage on it.
ooh.
When Quinlivan was dealing with her, there was a mortgage.
This keeps getting more and more unappealing.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you couldn't, yeah, but she'd have to clear the mortgage.
Yeah.
If she has one, and we don't know that, I don't know that any longer, I don't know what it is, but.
It's the thought that counts, right?
Well, you'll have by October 15th, tomorrow, you'll know exactly what the liabilities are outside of a potential mortgage.
Right.
Why wouldn't we approach her with that?
I already said I'm in favor.
Okay.
But I'm willing to hear others' perspectives.
I'd be willing to negotiate some sort of deal like that.
Yeah. I think if the price is right, I think it makes sense. Again, looking at pulling it up here, it looks like it's the total taxes payable 24 were 55,817, and then 83,000 is what's the currently shown for the payable 25. So that gets in the, again, verifying what that total tax liability is. But then, yeah, if she's got financing on that needs to clear too, that that quick gets it up to that 250, 300 number that I don't know that we want to be the ones on the hook and holding that. Again, at least now we're continuing to accrue tax base on it versus us taking ownership, paying everything off, and then removing it from the pool. At least it's an outstanding liability until it turns into a tax forfeited property. But I think if the numbers work out and we can get it for a reasonable market value, I think it absolutely speeds up getting a deal done on this property, as long as it's for the right price and we're not eating all of the liability on there.
I agree.
What he said.
Yeah.
So that's a consensus then? and
Mhm.
I wouldn't
step.
call it a consensus, please, because I don't necessarily agree with that.
I understand you don't, that's why I said
That's not-
consensus.
It's not a consensus then.
What would you like to call it?
Well, there's a decision by the group, but it's not a consensus, Julie, by definition.
Well, the majority of the group feels that if it can be done within a reasonable number, so we'll have to defer to staff to get the accurate and actual numbers, not the hypotheticals that we're
Right.
just
Correct.
looking at.
Right.
And the mortgage is off the table if
Yeah,
there is one.
if there's a,
Not a-
if there's a mortgage, it's not even a conversation.
That's a non-starter.
We will get some further information on that and what that looks like and have that for our December EDA meeting.
Okay. Anything else regarding downtown? Other business from anyone? I know a question I continue to get a lot that I think I know the answer to, but since we're here, we'll put it on camera. There's been lots of discussion and phone calls about the big concrete building going up across from the fire hall with Nutridyne, and what is that going to be, so.
So Nutridyne does vitamin supplements. They've been around for a long time in Mid Plain. They needed an expansion of their warehouse because they currently store materials in multiple sites, not just there. And so they wanted to do a refresh of that building, and with that, bring all of their business into one entity. So they ended all the leases with all their tenants and are taking back over the entirety of that building. They got approval for a warehouse expansion and a full kind of frontal facade redo for that building. So that concrete is just the tip up. That's not the finish at this point. And then they're gonna, pull that all together in a kind of rehab of that front facade and then landscaping and everything like that. So that is what they're doing there. It is it does meet what we approved. I mean, that's what they're building, so.
And the parking lot will be full of employees.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well,
Which will bank at our banks and eat at our restaurants.
Let's hope, yeah.
yes. Well, thank you.
Yep.
For that update. That's what I've been telling people, so. I'm like, it's not gonna stay concrete and it's all Nutrien now. All right, any other business to come before us this evening? Okay, with that, then, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Warden, second by Burek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the meeting's adjourned at 7:36.
Thank you.
So, you said we're gonna come back in December, so no EDA in November at this time then?